without further ado, let's dive into our session for today, Tackling Initiative Fatigue.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. My name is also Lisa. You all are very lucky to have two Lisas in the house today. I'm an educational consultant here at Branching Minds, and I'm excited to introduce you to our session today. It's on tackling initiative fatigue. As educators, we have many competing initiatives, and we may not take the opportunity to really step back and reflect on them. So today you'll have a chance to dig deep into those initiatives in your current role and reflect on where there might be initiative fatigue among staff. All right, so here is our agenda for our short 30 minutes together. We're going to start with recognizing initiative fatigue in staff, analyzing possible causes of initiative fatigue. I think we know what the outcomes might be, and then utilizing countermeasures to find a way forward. Our learning outcome for today is that you, as participants, will practice mapping various initiatives into key behaviors and walk through a process to tackle initiative fatigue. The skills involved in this session, the skills that we're growing, are your leadership skills, buy-in, project management, and implementation planning. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with recognizing initiative fatigue in staff. So here's a quote. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and read this quote and think about what word or words stand out to you. Go ahead and drop that word or phrase in the chat. Already set in, well-intentioned, focus, less focus. See it already set in, well-conceived, well-intentioned.
Wow. If we had a word cloud, well-intentioned would be the largest, I think.
Yes, I think so. The word focus is standing out to me as well. Great. Okay, so we may have all been in a situation where our leadership comes to us and says, gather around, folks. It's time to implement this great new best practice improvement thing. The announcement is followed by a flurry of excitement and activity over the several months. The leadership goes on this is what we're going to do. This is why it's important to her. There's meetings, trainings, and they're scheduled in preparation for this great new best practice improvement thing. Then a few months later, we may notice that this quietly fades away. It's never to be heard from again. It doesn't write. It doesn't call us. All right. So to sum up this quote, if everything is important, then nothing is important. If we're bombarded with too many initiatives, they will inevitably fall to the wayside. All right, so here is Dr. Anna. And Dr. Anna is a wonderful principal at Dewey Elementary. And she's concerned about the culture and climate of her campus. She did some reading and started asking herself some hard questions about her campus climate. And the first thing, she noticed noise. There were more frequent and louder complaints about changes. There was apathy, growing indifference about project changes. Some staff were completely disengaging. Employees are not asking questions anymore. They look visibly tired. Okay, there's burnout and there's stress. People seemed very anxious about changes. So just think to yourself, does this scenario ring true for you? Just take a couple minutes to ask yourself these questions. Okay, so like Dr. Anna, you may be recognizing that staff is exhibiting signs of initiative fatigue. Dr. Anna and our team begin to analyze the cause for initiative fatigue. So now that we know it exists, we've asked ourselves some important questions. We're looking for those root causes. And they need to figure out what negative events are occurring, look at the complex systems around those problems, identify possible root causes, and determine solutions to address those root causes. All right, so we're going to pause here and take a poll. And the question is, what is your role in regard to identifying and alleviating initiative fatigue in your setting? You're thinking, do you have direct control over this, or do you wield influence around this? So we'll take a second to look at that poll. You may have to go, I don't know if it pops up on your screen or you have to go to the polls tab.
Well, we already have 30 votes in out of 93 people here.
Wonderful. We did something right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll wait a couple more seconds. All right, you think we're ready?
I think so.
All right, let's take a look at those results.
So it looks like we have 13% of people say that they have direct control, and 86% said that they wield influence. So we've got a lot of educators who are likely informal leaders in our audience today, and we are so glad you're here. I don't know about you, Lisa, but I was definitely an informal leader in my past life too. You were all very important in that regard.
Yes, I was also in that wielding influence, and you know, and whether you have direct control or you're wielding influence for when we're seeing that initiative fatigue, you know, we want to do something about it. We want to take these burdens off of the teachers, staff. So great. All right. Well, thank you for that reflection. We're going to head into some reflection and we're going to analyze some influence around alleviating initiative fatigue. All right. So here is Dr. Anna's initiative inventory, and you all are going to have some time in just a bit to fill out an inventory of your initiatives in your current role. All right, so you can see those initiatives on the left side. We have some state legislation. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas, where we have House Bill 1416 on accelerated learning. We have a new reading curriculum, dyslexia screening, a reading math academy, PBIS platform, community family engagement plans. All right, and we're looking at the staff impacted, the students impacted, the purpose, and the strategic goal alignment. So if we just look at that strategic goal alignment, we can see that goal 2 comes up a lot. Okay, so Dr. Anna's team is wondering if any of the initiatives are designed to address goal 2, are there some duplications there? Okay. Then they're noticing that the reading teachers are impacted by many of these initiatives. So ELA, English Language Arts, we're seeing those teachers show up when we're looking at the staff impacted. When we look at the purpose, we're seeing that reading improvement is a common theme, which would also contribute to why the reading teachers are feeling overwhelmed by all of the initiatives. Okay, so reading teachers, reading initiatives. And then if you look at the students impacted, most of the students are being impacted, but we can see that second grade isn't showing up in all of these rows here. We do see 3rd through 5th and then kindergarten through 1st here quite a bit. Okay. All right, so we are going to invite you to take about 5 minutes to access your participant activity guide and list each initiative in which your staff is engaged. You'll see that on page 2. It looks like the screenshot on the screen. And you're going to give each of the initiatives its row, then outline the staff and students impacted, the purpose, and the strategic goal that might be aligned for each initiative. So go ahead. We're going to take about 3 minutes to take a look to start our initiative inventory.
And just remember, you can scroll all the way down below the slide deck and our videos to access that participant activity guide.
And I think it's always important to think, like, are these new initiatives or have they been around for a while? So as you're reflecting, is, what's kind of new to the staff? What might be some initiatives that are continuing and might be more familiar? All right, we'll take another minute. Okay. All right, so hopefully you have a few rows filled out. We're going to be heading into the countermeasures, but before that, we want to really reflect on what that inventory is revealing. Okay, so this is Dr. Anna's team. They're meeting and they're asking themselves questions based on the trends they saw in the initiative inventory. So as you're looking at the trends in your inventory, here are some questions to help you look to identify some of those trends. And so Dr. Anna's team, we're thinking about, are there duplicative efforts to solve the same problem? Is there a particular grade or department that's being impacted more than others? Have we done a thorough job of connecting our purpose to these initiatives? I know as a district math instructional coach, we always thought about what is the goal? What's on our school plan? How are we pushing that goal forward? So is that purpose there? And we know that that leads to the buy-in. And then are we celebrating wins as early as possible? Are people feeling the success of these initiatives? Do we need to reallocate resources? And is this all actually possible? So go ahead. I'm going to give you all 1 minute of reflection to ask yourself these questions as you're reviewing your inventory. And if you feel like you want to drop some reflections in the chat for others, please feel free to share. Okay. All right, so we are going to head into utilizing countermeasures to find a way forward. And now, when we're thinking about developing countermeasures, the goal within the practical problem-solving methodology is actually to explore as many countermeasures as possible at the same time. Okay, this concept is actually referred to as set-based countermeasures. In traditional problem-solving approaches, usually a team might narrow down to one countermeasure. They then will set off to implement that countermeasure, and they're hoping that it works. But there's a possibility that it won't, right? So for that reason, it's actually best to implement multiple countermeasures simultaneously. There are many benefits to taking a set-based countermeasure approach, such as the fact that it builds consensus rather than having team members promote or defend their favorite solutions. And we may have been in those meetings where, we want our, we think we might have the best solution, but if we can try multiple solutions, you won't have those team members defending their favorite. It also is fostering dialogue and responsibility for understanding the problem more deeply while preventing decisions from being made too quickly. Okay, so when we're thinking about countermeasures, which we're going to head into next, we're thinking about countermeasures that are going to prevent our root cause from reoccurring. And then we're thinking of implementing multiple countermeasures simultaneously. And we're avoiding that put all your eggs in one basket approach. Then we want to monitor the progress and generalize that countermeasure that has the greatest impact. All right, so back to Dr. Anna and her team. She identified 3 countermeasures that they're going to implement. Okay, they are going to arrange the master schedule to allow for extra planning time. They're going to provide stipends to teachers who participate in the Professional Development Academy. And they're going to hire 1 additional interventionist, wouldn't that be so great? And an additional classroom aide to support with all of these reading initiatives. Okay, so I'm going to invite you again to take about 3 to 5 minutes to go to the next page in your PAG, your Participant Activity Guide. And on page 3, you'll see this page on the screen. You're going to brainstorm 3 ways to prevent the root cause from recurring. Okay, and you're going to see 3 different countermeasures that you're thinking of implementing simultaneously. Let me know if there's any questions in the chat. Reflection partners. I love that idea, Jane. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Anna is working in a team, not by herself. Yeah, and I would definitely think that doing this type of activity in a team would be more fruitful, really. It's probably more difficult to think of these countermeasures on our own. You might be thinking of some questions that are coming up that you'd want to bring to your team, or some possible programs or master scheduling that could happen. So thinking of some questions to support that team discussion might be where you're at. Yes, I like that. You as a leader may be too close to the project. Great. We'll take one more minute to think of those countermeasures, start brainstorming some. Building and district goals and priorities are consistently revisited and assessed. Totally agree, Alyssa. Thank you. Sometimes we have multiple teams and we're all kind of going in different directions, but really streamlining your initiatives is what's going to be more sustainable. Okay, and again, feel free to, if you have any questions, use the Q&A as we're heading into our closing. It looks like we will have a few minutes to answer some questions that you have. And please share any other thoughts in the chat. I appreciate you all who are engaging in the chat today. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're putting this in action. So access your calendar or planner and find a date approximately 6 weeks from today, and jot down a reminder in that calendar invite to yourself to return to page 3 of your participant activity guide and reflect on the countermeasures and determine which one was most effective. And that's where you'll fill out that bottom part of that countermeasures graphic organizer. I know that sometimes initiatives don't move forward because we don't have that follow-up. So this is your chance to include some follow-up on your initiative inventory. Take some initiative on your initiative inventory. All right, and as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any questions. We have a few minutes to answer any questions, or if there's anything you'd like to share, please do so now. What if we don't have the power to implement these countermeasures? And that's where the question of reallocating resources came up in Dr. Anna's scenario. Sometimes we're seeing that different resources are going different places. And so meeting with your team and thinking about how you can reallocate those resources might be something, but having the power, I mean, you definitely want to have all your stakeholders in the room, in that team to support this work. If anybody else has any other thoughts for Ellie, please share.
And Lisa, we also had a question in the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
It says, on the initiative inventory, what is the strategic goal alignment column? What's that referring to, and where do we find those?
Okay, and I know we had, I think there could be multiple places you look for strategic goal alignments. I'm also thinking about just different states. I've worked at schools in Illinois, Texas, California, and Shanghai, China, and it kind of all looks different. But I know in my last role as a district instructional coach, we had a math vision. So we looked at our math vision as our goal alignment piece. We also had school goals as well, fun acronym called SIPSA. So that's another document that we used to ensure that our efforts as a math team were aligned with those goals. I don't know, Lisa, what it looks like in Minnesota.
Yeah, lots of districts in Minnesota have school improvement plans, or SIPs. And then the other place that you can often find strategic goals or the strategic plan for a district is going to be on the district's website. That's usually listed somewhere, like there might be 3 to 5 key goals that the district as a whole is working on. And then the school goals have to fit under that umbrella. Team goals fit under that umbrella, and then individual teacher goals often fit within that as well. So think about that. It might be numbers, it might be a phrase, what have you. It's going to look different, like Lisa said, depending on where you are and how that is communicated to you. But generally, you should kind of have an idea of what those larger goals are in your setting.
Okay, and I see a CPS, which I imagine is Chicago Public Schools. You have a CIWP, ooh. And then we have 1, 3, and 5-year plans. Continuous improvement working plan. Oh, got it. I wonder how you say, if you say that acronym a certain way, or if you just call it CIWP. It's always fun, all the acronyms in education. All right, well, in this last minute, we're gonna go ahead and close out. Oh, and there's a celebration there. So these are all, Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk through this, but these are all the ways to connect with Branching Minds resources. A lot of these the resources we have on our website are free. I love the emails that I get from Branching Minds because they give me just-in-time support. We're really sensitive about sending out certain materials during certain times of year to really give you all that just-in-time support.
Yeah. And let's close that out with, before we part ways, we just want to make sure that you're aware that you will have access to all of these pre-conference materials on demand. That includes the recording, the slide decks, and the participant activity guides. Now, because you all paid extra for the pre-conference, we want to make sure that these materials are available to you, but not to people who didn't register for the pre-conference. So we're going to email all of these resources to you early next week. So the recording is what you don't have right now. You have access to everything else, but in your email, you'll receive the slide decks and participant activity guides as well. We also want you to be aware that how you access these pre-conference materials will be different from how you access the main session materials for tomorrow and Thursday's events. Those materials will be published within the event platform in the replay area. However, as I mentioned, pre-conference materials are going to be emailed to you to make sure that that access is limited to only those of you who have registered for the conference. If you have any questions about that or any other lingering questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A tabs, or you can email them to summit@branchingminds.com. Thank you for joining our session today, and please enjoy the rest of the pre-conference and the summit.
Great. Thank you all. We wish you the best of luck in your initiative inventories.